I wonder what. Are we ready? Yes, of course. I'd like to call over the regular meeting. Saratoga Streets Public Library. Trustees. Our first order of business is approval of the December 2025 meeting minutes. And I think Terry and Don had emailed in the revised packet that was sent out this afternoon, had those changes. Questions or any other changes to the minutes?
I'll move approval.
Terry, do you have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have the approval of the expenditures. We have the prepaid checks 74298 to 74303. Any questions on those? The January warrants and checks 74304 to 74383. Totally $176,000, $764.80. Questions on those?
It's the Star Tech Services.
That's,
24,000.
yeah, that was the brand new unit. That was the old unit was unrepairable. From the children's department, and that was before the electrical damage that we had. That comes with a 3-year hurt, 1 year labor warranty.
You have all this in your brain?
Somewhat, because they want, they say, well, we can take it out, we'll bring it to the shop. We'll repair it, it's 10 grand, and we'll give you 90 days on parts. No, they,
Yeah, right,
90 days for 10 grand.
right,
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody else questions about January warrant? Okay, move to approve the payment, Cindy. Second. Thank you, Nancy. All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have approval of the financial reports, CPAs and January warrant summary sheets. The budget report. Questions?
The one thing on the budget report that I did want to call your attention to, Frank, which I noticed this morning, but I think it relates directly to this question you just asked about Star Tech. And I think that that replacement of that HVAC unit downstairs got charged to repair and maintenance rather than to capital expenditures. And so that's why it looks like we're so overspent in repair and maintenance, because that was an unexpected expense that probably could have gone either way. So I anticipate that at some point before the end of the year, we'll probably be looking to do a reallocation from the capital to the repair. Is that correct, Rick?
I charged that to equipment,
Oh, to
new equipment, because it was a brand new unit. There was no repair and maintenance was already.
Okay, all right.
And some
So
lines on some
we'll
other.
take a closer look to see why the repair and maintenance is so overspent. But in any event, if it's even equipment, it should be a capital expense rather than.
Yeah, the equipment purchase here is 24,000.
Oh, that's right, which is, yeah.
Anybody else? We also have the income report.
Got a donation?
We did, yeah. $1,500 from Andrew and Arlene Duboff.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
If there's no other discussion, I'll take the motion to approve. And move to approve. Thank you, Jane. Second.
Second.
Thanks, Fred. All in favor?
Aye.
Do not have a full model president's report. I want to thank everybody for doing their continuing education hours and getting those so that we hand them off to Jen to put in our report. And then I wanted to make sure everybody knew that there are so many Saratoga Reads events posted over the next couple of months. Including a screening of my octopus teacher. Is that going to be in here? That's exciting. I watched it on my laptop.
Yes.
Good little thing. And also making 100 cupcakes. It's a good year. Anyhow, those are all posted on the Saratoga Reads website. There are lots of things to choose from. And then I wanted to ask, and I'm sort of jumping ahead. So I'm curious, of how things have been going with Ingram since Baker and Taylor. Please down, because I had a conversation with Cindy over the weekend about that, and she was like, did you hear this? And I said, yeah, but.
Things are going fantastically. I mean, things are going great. The fact that we already had a relationship established with Ingram that we've had for several years already, we were already in their pipeline. And so we kind of were a little bit ahead the curve. We saw this happening. It was mostly adult services librarians, and then some various youth services librarians noticed things aren't coming in from Baker and Taylor. So this was months before the big news hit that Baker and Taylor was going out of business. And so they just started to switch their ordering. And so by the time, by the time the bomb went off, we were already in a really good spot. So we weren't clamoring for a spot. Please let us be your newest customer, because we were already there. So we're just very fortunate.
It's great. I don't know, it was a kind of an odd conversation, not with something that I would have expected a question from, so. Mentioned something about the library board, and she went off on Baker and Taylor, so.
No, right. And there was an article did show up in the New York Times, like.
And NPR too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyhow, that's it for me, public comment? And no correspondence, the director report.
So the great news that while I was on vacation, I got an email that our grant for the elevator project has got its final approval, so we'll be reimbursed for many businesses. So if you ask, some people have been wanting to buy equipment, I've been especially generous the last week or so since I got the email that we're getting from grant. And the generosity relates to the literacy lab, the next part. So we have, since the Friends have officially decided that they are out of the coffee shop business, and we were looking at, we're still looking at ways to use the space, and one of the things that's been on our mind is a permanent home for literacy services. And while this may not be a permanent solution, it's again, like a potential branch library and a community center in one of our neighboring communities is a kind of proof of concept for a unified space for those kinds of activities next door in the coffee shop. So we invested in, and thank you to the guys in the shop for moving furniture, dismantling reassembling, mounting a big screen TV in that space, so we're, and today, for the very first time, I opened the door to walk in to see how progress was going, and there was a person using it for tutoring. So we're looking, there are some ongoing concerns. If you look at what's going on in the greater world, people are concerned about folks for whom English might not be their first language gathering together in a public space, and what kind of other activities that might attract from the outside world. But for now, we're moving forward. We're already having these kinds of activities at other places throughout the library, and so we're hoping to. But we have a new monitor mounted on the wall. We've ordered some room dividers to kind of separate the space. Well, we didn't want to embark on a full-scale construction project in there yet until we have a better sense of what a more permanent use of the space will be. But we're getting it fitted up for this service, and we're kind of excited about being able to consolidate those things into one space. And we actually went back and forth about what to call it. We liked calling it the Literacy Lounge for a minute, and then we realized it will probably only be, it won't be open when it's not in use for literacy. So we didn't really think we could call it a lounge, and people could lounge down there. So we settled on lab, literacy lab, since it is kind of experiment. Farm to library from my report is another thing that has showed up in a few reports around, and there was a grant that was spearheaded by the Brown Lake Library as a kind of a pass-through to expand the service into libraries in Saratoga County. So later this week, Gina Michelin, who's been kind of the point person for us, our participation in this project, and I will go out to Greenwich to meet with the comfort food community people to see about the grant, which is meant, we think, to buy refrigerators for the additional libraries and to buy food to stock the program during the non-growing season. Since during the growing season, it is primarily gleaned from farms, mostly in Washington County, the food. And during the non-growing season, they buy food to supplement. So what we hope is that since we have a refrigerator that was in use in that coffee space that the former vendor has donated to us, we hope that it's an appropriate kind of refrigerator to use for this kind of service, so that more money can be dedicated toward purchasing food to supply the program. It's a cooler that like I say, the former vendors for their friends have agreed to leave behind and donate to us. I don't know if there were any other questions about anything else. If there's a picture of my dog since I was away for.
That was the best part of the word.
Relatively new puppy at the bookstore. He looks tiny in this picture. I can tell you he's probably about 3 times the size. He's grown.
Well, he thought nothing is written in stone.
That's right. So that's huge.
Does he have the softest ears?
He doesn't, no.
They look like those like little.
It's funny, and when as the more he grows, the less floppy his ears get, so the
Okay.
rest of him seems to be growing and his ears don't seem to be.
What breed is it?
He's what we call in my house a Tennessee brown dog. He's one of those brown dogs. He's a hound mix.
Okay.
And on the paper I got when I got him, it said he was 26 pounds. We went to the vet last week because we had a traumatic experience with a flexi leash, but he was 46 pounds.
So maybe they were a little off.
And we do have later on the agenda, kind of inspired by our last community-led resolution of commendation, but but bubbling up rather than coming down. We hope a resolution of commendation for Catherine Gold, who's been our stalwart partner in Saratoga Ridge Junior for a couple of decades. Oh, and a policy, actually, did that make it on the agenda, right? We have, thank you, Jen, for reminding me that. We have throughout various policies, both in our handbook and on our website, references to things like the coffee shop, which we don't call the coffee shop anymore. And we made a change in our naming convention a few years ago, but now it's becoming more necessary to change too. It took us, I don't know why it took us so many decades to realize that, or for it to dawn on us that ground floor and first floor for a lot of people who come from where we come from mean exactly the same thing. So it's a little confusing when we refer to the ground floor as where the children's room is, and the first floor is where the circulation desk. So we started referring to the lower level and the first floor. And so throughout our policies, there are references to these kinds of things, and there are still a few gendered items in our policies where we say his, her. And so what we would hope is that the board would approve or make a resolution when we get to that point on the agenda to allow us to change those things as they occur, rather than bringing each individual policy to you to make changes that don't change the meaning of a policy, but just update them to current usage.
Do you have anything else for I? No, we can move on to Jen.
So, do the easy one first. The New York State annual report is going to be delayed, which is exciting. It will be due in April,
It's
think that's
new
what
date is April.
new date is April. So Baker and Taylor was the owner of the software that we use, a lot of states have used. And I believe they haven't signed a contract yet at the Division of Library Development in the Education Department. So once that is done, then they have to do training and data migration and then tell us what needs to be done. So they're pushing it into the end of the first quarter, so, which is good news for us, because then we still have all the data. It shouldn't change too much. I would hope that they wouldn't add new questions, but they could, but, and we'll have the finalized audit numbers so that Eric make everything work out as well by that time. We're always in a crunch, so I feel like now we won't be in as much of a crunch. And then the other thing I worked on since the last meeting was the department heads and I got together and started thinking about what data we wanted to collect for the space and usage study of how people are using our building and what times and how many people are here and a little bit of what they're doing. And we also decided that instead of just doing it, I know that Katie, last time you mentioned like, so you can make a decision perhaps before the budget, but we decided that we probably want a full year's worth of data and try and get it during different seasons. So if we start in February, we would do it for 2 weeks, and one of those weeks would be like a vacation week, which would be different, but yet show how people are using our space during the high programmatic. We also would use data that we already have. So we collect a lot of data and it's already in reports. So that would give us contextual stuff, as well as walking around and counting the number of people that are sitting in chairs in our building, the number of people browsing in the Friends bookshop during a certain period. And we would assign an actual person to do that during each shift. And it might be like whoever's the building monitor is at the time, once an hour, they can choose whatever time. It's not going to be that consistent, but it'll be in general. Walk around, whoever's sitting at the info desk, the reference desk, etc. And then there'll also be space to have some notes, so like. Again, some more contextual data, like it was an ice storm that day, and that's why there was less people, or it was Chowder Fest, or. There was some event going on in the city, but whether it be weather or a festivity, just to give some idea of. Why we have more people in the building or less in the building. And then at some point, we will analyze all that data and present it. Probably at the end of the year, if that is okay with you. That is our present, I mean, give you more information. If you have wanted it or.
No, I mean, that sounds good. I think part of it was that we had kept hearing from staff with the concerns about the evening. So my only piece is if the decision can only be made in a budget cycle, and we've already had kind of promised last year, felt like we were promising that decision, that now we're kind of saying a year and a half away, feels a little odd to me, but, maybe it isn't something that has to also be made, like, as a part of a budget decision, or how the board feels, that maybe that's something that if the data indicates some kind of changes, that could be something that could begin in December or January, rather than waiting until the fall.
Right. And then, I mean, I know it's a little off, so the budget has to be put together.
Right, I mean, we're entering budgeting season right now.
Right,
So we don't really have any data to give you.
right,
so
we only have, so whatever was collected last year when we had those
But it was
conversations.
only a little bit collected. It wasn't a
Okay.
big picture with any of this extra.
We do have like widget data, we have door counts and circulation.
Right, and I know that you'd asked last year for people to walk around. I think I just didn't realize that nothing had continued with that process of collection.
Right, so this would be a effort where we are doing it, we'll set dates, we're all on board, moving together to get it actually done. So-
Nice.
And we would give updates on reports.
And when are you starting this?
Next,
February. So we have an all staff meeting at the end of this month where we would present it to people, and then the department heads would talk to the individuals who would be responsible for collecting data during certain times of the day.
You know, it might, in terms of if there are changes that were being made, it might be less confusing for the public if they start in a calendar year rather than our
Then
budget
summer.
year. Just, you know,
I don't know, is there any reason that a change like that would have to be associated with the budget year? I mean, that, you know, we don't do policies only associated with a
Right,
budget
yeah.
year or, right?
that's.
I mean, if you were gonna talk about something huge, that you were gonna close a day a week, but so that then the whole calendar of the year was affected, that we vote on in the summer, but I can't imagine that's what anyone is gonna. That
No, I
it's,
don't-
you know, that it's gonna indicate that.
Right, and I do, I mean, there are libraries within cells, I don't know about any of our peer libraries, except maybe Crandall. That has seasonal schedules, so where they close earlier during the winter. Nobody stays open later, but Crandall, I think, is not among but among the larger libraries, is unique in that they close on Sundays during the summertime. So there are other libraries that have fluctuations in
Right.
their schedules based on the season, so I don't think that it would necessarily. It wouldn't be super unusual for us to make a seasonal adjustment to schedules. Where I would think that people might have a reaction is if we're gonna be open fewer hours, is there gonna be a related change in the budget?
yeah.
And so that's where it makes sense for there to be an alignment.
Done.
I don't really have anything specific, just kind of what happened for the 2 weeks that I was here in December. I did want to thank all my coworkers, the whole pretty much the entire staff for a great year. Working with them is a pleasure.
Trevor.
I was excited to talk about the literacy lab, but that's okay. Oh. So, no, not a whole heck of a lot to really highlight. I was playing with numbers and thought it was just interesting looking at the usual. I know I have these tables that every month you say, wow, there's a bunch of numbers up there. And those numbers change. Sometimes they go up, sometimes they go down. While I'm sitting in my office, I thought, well, it's interesting that these numbers, they kind of stayed the same. That was those digital circulation numbers. That just kind of got me off thinking on a tangent. So that's why I included that piece here where, and none of it is probably all that breaking or earth shattering, but just every now and then something will, like I said, pop in my head that I can explain why these tables are here, what kinds of information can we glean from them, or can this get us thinking a little bit? So really, it's a little bit of trivia, just, you know, why does the e-content seem to be exempt from the other patterns from the rest of our physical media borrowing patterns that exist? So it's a lot of it is there because it's kind of steady, it's available from anywhere, there's really not a whole lot of friction. But also the nice thing is those numbers still are on the relatively small side. So I mean, our print media, our physical media is really, it's not going anywhere. It's just a nice complement. It's kind of fun to see how this stuff behaves a little differently statistically. So other than that, just this is the first year since Jen Ogrodowski taking the van out. We've got a full year of outreach under our belts. And I think this is the first December where I think she has had to either reschedule or kind of call off making some visits because of the weather. We've had kind of an unusual, if we can all agree, but an unusual December. So a little bit of a bummer having to kind of switch gears because the van is great. It's not awesome on ice and snow. I mean, like anything else. And so we want to stay safe. And also, if the weather is that bad, then probably the attendance at some of these things is also not going to be all that great. So we weigh those. When we're making these decisions about do we go, do we not go, weighing that all together. So well, that's it. And then here we are in 2026. Anybody have any questions?
Nobody has questions?
Thank you.
Or from Catherine?
So I also gave you guys a lot of numbers. The one thing that my department, we were all kind of chuckling, but feeling impressed is that we're the most consistent people in the universe. We are within 3 reference questions of last year. One children's program last year. We are literally the most, our program attendance did go up a bit, which is nice to know that people want to come, but we are very consistent people. And I thought that was really interesting. A couple of things that didn't make it in my report. We're going to be one of the site hosts for the Flurry Festival next month. The way that partnership works is that anything they have here is free, doesn't require their usual paid ticketing, mostly because we only host children's events and they don't make children pay anyway. So their lineup is like really extensive this year for our location. Last year, we kind of had some bad luck with the weather. But they do bring in some really nice presenters, and it's even sometimes it's people that we've had before, sometimes it's people that we have not afforded. So it's going to be really exciting. It's on Valentine's Day. And then the other thing is that Anna Ray has her teen advisory board who work on kind of helping her guide what teen services should look like from their own perspective. One of my goals for them has been, being more connected to the community and civics. So the plan is for them to come watch the board meeting next month. As far as I'm aware, they have no plans to address the board, but if anyone wants to be extra impressive, I don't know if you want to.
So should we come dressed as the?
I mean, could they,
Like, wigs, there you go.
Yeah.
Strict rules for their board meetings. I feel like ours might be a little more chill. But I believe we'll have an audience next month of at least some of our team. So,
Is the events gonna be in this space? Like, are they big for the?
for the
flurry?
flurry, yeah, they'll be here. Maybe 6 different things. that's
Wow.
happening. They start like right at 9:30.
Yeah.
Last year, the afternoon, I guess we had a snowstorm and like the afternoon kind of petered out. It was a little not great, but hopefully this year the snow pulled out.
And that's an earlier weekend. They usually do it President's Weekend.
I
It's
think
usually
so.
when it starts.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they have a really robust schedule. I feel like last year they were kind of dipping a toe in trying to really get things cranked back up, and this year.
it's. Anybody else have questions for Catherine? Right, Amy, you're up.
The only two things I really wanted to highlight from my report is, Emily Martin made a proposal to ALA to present Read to Recover, and her proposal was accepted, so she will be talking about Read to Recover at one of the biggest library conferences, so that's awesome, very, very proud of her. She's co-presenting with San Francisco Public Library, which was the very first Read to Recover, and where we got the idea from. And the other thing is we have a new partnership with the Albany VA hospital. They're gonna be coming here to do some programs, so we're working that out for the spring. And they donated 50 gun locks as well to us, and so we put them in the Read to Recovery collection. They came and visited the library, they were very impressed. Excited about that partnership.
How do the gun locks get distributed?
Oh, we just put them out in the collection and people could take them if they wanted.
Okay. But they're permanently gone then,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
not- I don't,
they are
I know
for you to
nothing about.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so one of the programs that we're gonna have here in the springtime will be, like talking about gun safety and it'll, everything with them is through the lens of veteran services, but it's also the people who know the veteran, live with the veteran, yeah, so it really applies to everybody.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, any questions?
Who's reading the plot?
Who's reading what?
Who's reading the plot?
Oh, that was Rebecca read that one. I haven't talked to her about it, so I
Oh
don't know.
my God, she has to read the sequel.
That sounds great.
On the questioning about Star Trek, I was thinking one of the things that did happen in December, it was an extremely busy month with the weather. But we actually saved a unit up in one of the towers. We had a service call and they couldn't figure it out, and then we got one of their IT tech people here, and we actually lost a motherboard in one of the big units in the tower. We know that cost is $83,000 if you have to replace it. So we got their IT guy in, and he went through the boards and he did some background work for us. Now, it took 2 visits, but we actually replaced a motherboard and 2 communication boards in an older unit, and we're able to flash them with software. And it has been functioning for almost 3 weeks. So I'm taking it with a grain of salt because there was no guarantee through the manufacturer that it would work. You're talking less than $2,500 versus for materials versus 83K, so. And he's amazed me so far. Luckily we cannibalized some of our old stuff and he was able to make it work. And I'm very pleased with that, so this is a proof of concept. We'll see, because they say, it's possible, but it depends on how many software upgrades it's had and all these other components, so it just was right on the line of being doable. So it was a very good thing. Other than that, it's been snow, ice, wind, all hands on deck. You're just here doing it even when you know you're short. You leave as early as you can, 3-day-old coffee and a banana, this stuff.
Who has coffee that lasts for 3 days?
He expected to make a new time, but when I looked outside, when I let the door out at 4:30, I'm like, oh, that's not good. So that was the last storm, which we got a lot more. I had a lot more snow up north than there was actually here. It was a little icier here. Yeah, it was just been crazy between staffing and weather, people being sick. You just do what you gotta do to keep it rolling.
And we did invest in a new toy for the operation.
That'll be in next month. Yes.
Way.
So I'll tell you now, there's a real
Still have pictures next time.
the guys were really complaining, we were going through salt so fast. And the temperatures have been so cold. Everybody's complaining about sore shoulder, between the shoveling and, it just refreezes. Jen had the words, painting the sidewalk blue, but it's still slippery. And so the guys really were working me over saying, this is getting tougher and tougher. We want one of these sidewalk brushes, and I go, well, you gotta convince me. So they were all shooting for, the hydrostatic on the big skid steer like the city has. I said, we know that's not happening. So we don't have a building place to put it. So Aaron's makes one on a snowboard. It's a little longer. And so I called All Seasons. And we asked a lot of questions about repairability, longevity, all these issues. And he goes, I have one left. Usually we get a 10% discount. They made it 20%. You take it. So I just had to get it. The powers that
The
be.
generosity.
So easily, this will save 3 pallets of salt a season. That's almost $800 a pallet now.
What does it do if it melts?
And no, this is a brush, it's just a nylon brush. And we tested it against some 1.5 inch thick ice right up
And
here.
it breaks something ice.
It chews it up, and then if you throw a little bit of salt, the deep ice, that helps pocket it'll. You gotta be careful with your power control because, you don't wanna be spinning it out against vehicles, but. Your sidewalk is.
You were gonna say you didn't want to groove and damage the concrete,
The
right?
concrete is one thing, it has a little self-adjustment, and then they have some shims, and we've already made a couple of thinner shims so we can make our own adjustments. Cause we have so much uneven,
Right.
but the city uses it on sidewalks and theirs is a heavier nylon. This is a little lighter, but everybody's like, yeah. That means we don't have to go out there with that scraper and hit that seam in the sidewalk, cause we have a couple of people that are walking around like this. It's just brutal, so it was a great deal. And really, they're the only game in town. There's another one in Warren County, but they're very expensive. They give no discounts, and we're not in their priority repair list, so. That's why you form these business relationships, and you work together. It was well worth it. well worth.
Great.
Any other question?
I don't have too much to add, just back to hiring. Have 2 interviews tomorrow. Then transfers go out, yes. Yes.
So I had a question.
Yes.
Switching over from CDPHP to MVP,
Yeah,
for this is just for the retirees?
yes, it's the Medicare Advantage plan.
Is it, what's the differential of cost for them?
It's each retiree is a little bit different based on when they retired. So some of them it's no cost, some of them it's. I have a whole spreadsheet.
Right, but the cost of the library, the
Yes.
CDPHP plan was going up over 20% if we were to renew the plan as it was. And the MVP plan, is an increase, but it's in the 6 or 7%.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get an idea of how much.
Yeah.
Of the increased burden for them.
It's a fairly, of all the plans we looked at, it's pretty comfortable.
And it is a comparable plan. The only thing that we discovered a little bit after the fact is that the CDPHP plan, unknown to us, included like a kind of a rudimentary dental benefit within, which is very unusual. The MVP plan doesn't have that.
We would have had to add a dental rider.
Right, there was a rider that we could have purchased, but our policy actually says that we don't cover retirees for dental insurance.
Okay, so that's unnecessary.
Right.
Yeah, so nobody's getting hit by two.
No,
No.
and that's exactly why
Yes.
we made the change. Otherwise, it would have been a really significant increase for the people who for the recent retirees.
Yeah.
Because we do still have this, we're kind of scaling down. For a long time, we paid 100% of the coverage for retirees, and we still have a few retirees who are kind of in that, like the tier 1 people.
Right.
The most that anyone is paying now is still 5%.
Of 5%, the.
Of the premium for the Medicare.
Thanks.
Should we? I guess we have any special reports, we don't have committee reports. Or any unfinished business, there's something here, but the statements. Okay, you wanna talk about the policy updates a little bit more?
I think it should be clear unless there are questions about it. I mean, I don't have any language to propose, just that where the changes wouldn't make any change in meaning, but just bring
Well, do
them.
you want a resolution that
I think
says
so.
that
I
the
think-
library director is empowered to make non-substantive changes to library policy?
Yes, yep. Otherwise, what we would typically do is bring each individual policy.
Yeah. So in lieu of that, I would vote for a resolution that the library director be empowered to make non-substantive changes to the library policies.
I just would worry about that word non-substantive. Because we're specifically talking about language to be kept in sync with our changes. And I don't think that's just anything. I mean, I trust Ike, but, somebody could call something unsubstantive, but it could still be.
I don't mean to pass a value judgment on some of the changes. I'm talking about the way I described it. It sounds like these are not changing any
The policy itself.
substantive nature of the policy. In other words, if it says he, and it really applies to both he, she, and they, well then the will reflect that. So I don't mean to say that they're not important when I use the word non-substantive, if you have a better word. That's fine. But like you can make a technical change to something that changes it I think this is, like you said, you know, this is kind of like we're putting our trust in the library director. To make the distinction between whether or not something is a substantive change to a policy as opposed to you know, just changing language that's more inclusive or more reflects the, say, like the second floor, first floor, ground floor, you know, things like that. This way,
We still review, I mean, so you make the change, do you tell us and we're able to look at it? In other words, we don't have to look at each policy, is
So,
what,
what we're asking is that, no, that we don't bring each individual policy.
you
to you
would say to us,
But,
we,
but,
we made
but
these
yes, we would absolutely.
and we could,
Right.
somebody could look at that.
Exactly, would it make you more comfortable, Jean, if we were to say something like,
In
Right.
relationship to naming spaces or
right,
like,
right,
did we articulate
Right.
what the parameters of your.
right, to reflect current usage and naming conventions?
Yes,
fine.
I'd like it to be
Right.
contained,
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
no, that's fine. I mean, we can get whatever you feel comfortable with, you know, like, I see your point, you know, you don't.
Well, I just feel like, you know, well, so much has been happening lately that things are being interpreted any old way they
well,
want to
exactly,
be right now.
exactly. You never
So,
know what.
yeah,
what
and we
changes
love, it's already said he's thinking about someday to touch, you know. I'm just saying, I think it should be.
I think
very
that,
specific.
I think the clarity of that is a great idea. It's
Yeah.
creating a parameter of what that is.
So is that okay, to say to reflect current usage and naming conventions?
Yes,
Yes.
that'd be great.
Did you want one of us to make a motion of that? How do you want to phrase that? Did we make a resolution to, recognize
Give permission.
and give permission for naming?
And they could be we can use the word, but I'd like it to be further, you know.
Right. What was the way you just said it?
To, what did we say, to revise library policies to reflect current usage and naming conventions. To authorize the library director to update library policies to reflect current usage and naming conventions.
Excellently stated.
And naming, what was that last word?
Naming conventions.
Conventions. Okay. All right, ready? Motion? I would like to make a motion to authorize the library director to revise policies to reflect current usage and naming conventions in the Saratoga Springs Public Library. How's that? Okay. Word. Have a second?
Second.
The duck competition. Thank you, Terry. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Then we have the draft resolution. Is Dr. Golden still on the Skidmore faculty?
She's retiring this year.
Okay.
And she's let us know that when she retires from Skidmore, she's also retiring from the Saratoga.
Right, well, right, given that she's doing it with students on campus,
Yes.
right? I would like to make a motion to approve. Have a second?
Did you have a discussion?
Thank you.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say we hope to present it to her in February. That's why it came up now.
Right, okay. So we have a
Did you
motion.
just move?
I moved and Frank seconded,
Oh,
and
okay.
now he's gonna say all in favor.
Right.
Now we have executive session to discuss a particular personnel matter. So